Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heave is gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining.
Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. Oh, he hit it. Ja Morant, insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parish. On today's episode, I'm going to do a few things. We're going to look at the Grizzlies, where they are right now, and how they might stack up among the Western Conference, among the title hopefuls this season. I'm also going to look at some Year 4 historical comps for Ja Morant. And then at the end of the show, I'm going to go over the NBA 2K ratings for the Grizzlies players. The Year 4 comps for Ja that I'm going to do, these aren't going to be as outrageous or as irresponsible or as, starry-eyed as like the ones for Bane or even Zaire, because we don't need to. We don't have to get carried away for Ja Morant because he's already that dude. Averaged 27 points per game. He's already 8th all-time in playoff points per game. He's the only player in NBA history currently with playoff averages over 28 points per game and 9 assists per game. So we don't have to be like, hey, what could Ja be? Ja's already that guy. He's already an all-star. He's already great. But I will list out a few player comps that I think are similar players and use those to try to figure out if there's anything that we can, maybe predict Year 4 of Ja and what that could mean for the Grizzlies. But right now, let's start off by talking where the Grizzlies might rank among Western Conference teams and all NBA teams as we think about them some 3 weeks before training camp starts. The Grizzlies play a preseason game in 19 days, which is pretty exciting. But where are the Grizzlies as far as the best teams in the NBA? Well, Marc Stein put out his power rankings. He had the Grizzlies 8th, which I think is totally fair. The teams ahead of the Grizzlies: the Warriors, yeah. The Bucks, yeah. The Celtics, yeah. And then the Nuggets, okay, let's talk about it. The Clippers, well, we can talk about it. The Suns and the Sixers. Those are reasonable opinions for a person to have. John Schumann of NBA.com, he has the Grizzlies as 5th in the Western Conference, behind the same Western Conference teams that Marc Stein has them behind: the Warriors, the Suns, the Nuggets, and the Clippers. That is totally fair. I don't think there's much of an argument that the Grizzlies are better than the Warriors. The Warriors have very few questions. Whatever things you want to take away from the Warriors and say, all right, they lost Gary Payton 2, they lost Otto Porter, they lost Nemanja Bjelica, it's not going to matter. It's a reasonable expectation that Moses Moody could improve. All the stuff we talk about for the Grizzlies, like, oh, Zaire Williams is going to get better, Ja's going to get better, Desmond Bane's going to get better. Yeah, those things are true, I think. But like, Warriors fans are saying, well, Moses Moody's going to get better. Jonathan Kuminga is going to get better. James Wiseman is going to help out. He's going to get better. They also picked up Dante DiVincenzo. Like, the Warriors are going to be fine. The Bucks, they have the best player in the NBA. They have Giannis Antetokounmpo. We assume with Drew Holiday, with Chris Middleton, with the other guys they have, they're going to be awesome. The Celtics had a little blow where Danilo Gallinari hurt his knee, and he's basically going to be out for maybe the whole season. And that was just a depth piece. Like, that wasn't like a playoff performer they were losing. Like, that's not a guy in their main playoff rotation. But the addition of Malcolm Brogdon to what they had last year, right now on paper, yeah, looks awesome. The Nuggets and the Clippers, who Marc Stein has them 4 and 5 in the entire NBA, I don't have a problem with it. I think if Jamal Murray is back from his injury that he suffered basically a year and a half ago, like, not even counting Michael Porter Jr., just if Jamal Murray is back, Jamal Murray plus Nikola Jokic plus Aaron Gordon, plus Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, useful starting shooting guard, a 3-and-D wing, plus even like Bruce Brown, just guys, they're going to be awesome. If Michael Porter Jr. is good, then yeah, they're a top 5 team. Maybe if Michael Porter Jr. is not totally back from his back issues, then maybe they're more like the 8th or 9th best team, and the Grizzlies would be better than them, ideally. But like just when Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic play, 2 years ago they were plus 11.8 points per 100 possessions better than their opponent. So basically a plus 12 net rating just when Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are on the court. So the Nuggets likely going to be elite this year, and that also goes for the Clippers. The Clippers, one thing going for them, they're incredibly deep. Even if Kawhi Leonard is not the same Kawhi Leonard when he returns this season, with Paul George, with this entire army of wings that they have, seemingly, Norm Powell and Robert Covington and Nick Batum, they just keep coming. Just guys and guys who can all play. They added John Wall. The Clippers team should be very, very good. But if Kawhi Leonard is back, well, then maybe they're the favorites for the title. Maybe they're actually better than the Warriors and the Celtics and the Bucks. The last time we saw Kawhi Leonard and Paul George playing together, they dominated. In the 2020-21 season, when Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were on the court together, this is over 2,000 possessions. The Clippers were plus 17.9 points better than their opponent per 100 possessions. A plus 17.9 net rating. That is outrageous. I can't twist Grizzlies stats to come up with better two-man combinations than that. I mean, that's like the best case scenario stuff. I know the thing I like to say is if you just take the Grizzlies' current top 8 coming into this season, which is Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., Steven Adams, and then a bench of Tyus Jones, Zaire Williams, and Brandon Clark. Last year, when you had 5-man lineups consisting solely of those 8 guys, it could be any 5 of those 8 players, the Grizzlies had a plus 14 net rating, which is awesome, which is a good reason for optimism for the Grizzlies this year. But when you lower it just to having 2 guys and they're Kawhi Leonard, multiple-time Finals MVP, and Paul George, a guy who's finished top 5 in the MVP vote, and just when those 2 guys are on the court together, the Clippers were plus 17.9 net rating. If they're back, yes, by all means, the Clippers are formidable and terrifying. Beyond that, like the Suns, they had the best record in the NBA last year by a lot. We're not sure what happened. Was it COVID? They lost by however much they lost that Game 7 to the Mavericks by. The Suns should be right there. I think on paper, more talent than the Grizzlies. And then the Sixers, they have that top-end talent of Embiid and Harden. And then Maxi's coming on. You got Tobias Harris. And then, of course, it's a little bit painful for me. One of D'Anthony Melton's biggest fans. The Sixers are ranked ahead of the Grizzlies, basically on the strength of them picking up a Grizzlies player. If the Grizzlies don't trade D'Anthony Melton to the Sixers, are they higher in Marc Stein's power rankings? Probably not. Although this is a good chance to remind everyone, power rankings are meaningless, and do not ever be upset by them. Meaningless. They're just for fun. So I think that is an okay place to put the Grizzlies in these rankings in the NBA. Like, you also have to consider the Miami Heat. Miami Heat fans are saying, why aren't we better? We had the best record in the East last season, the regular season. We were one Jimmy Butler pull-up 3 away from going to the finals, of beating the Celtics. They were so close to beating the Celtics. They'll expect some better health from Bam Adebayo this season. They'll expect maybe greater contributions from Victor Oladipo as he gets more and more time away from his big injury. Tyler Hero could be better. Maybe they'll get bounce-back seasons from Duncan Robinson, Max Strus. There's a lot of ways the Heat could be really, really good. Also, there's a bunch of teams. Like the Raptors, the the Timberwolves, the Cavs, the Pelicans, the Mavericks. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But I think it's fair to put the Grizzlies where they are, which is, in the top 10 of NBA teams, but near the back half of that top 10. I myself, I haven't come up with what I think is an actual forecast for the Grizzlies season. I haven't done like their win total or anything. I know Las Vegas puts them at an over-under of 49.5 wins. This is not my official pick, but I think I'm just going to take that over as long as Ja Morant's around. I don't know if they're going to be 7 games worse from last year. They very well could. The Western Conference, you're getting better seasons from the Trailblazers. You're getting better seasons from the Pelicans, which those teams could maybe get a lot more wins. The Jazz have voluntarily removed themselves from the proceedings, but like the Lakers could be better. Maybe not. The Kings expect to be better. We know, like we said, the Nuggets should be better. The Clippers should be better. It's going to be tough sledding in the West. I have said many times, and I believe it, that the Grizzlies' pieces around Ja Morant got worse this offseason. To be clear, and I think you guys understand the nuance, I'm not saying the Grizzlies won't be any good. I think the Grizzlies will be really, really good this coming season. But I do think the supporting cast is a little bit worse. But as I'm going to get to in a little bit, I think Ja Morant's going to be better, which is just exciting and nuts to think about. Like, Ja Morant's going to be actually better. Ja Morant could play more games than he played last year. I think there is a significant percentage chance that Desmond Bane is better this season. When we did the episode looking at player comps for Desmond Bane, you can look at guys like Michael Redd, Michael Finley, Coutinho Mobley, Eric Gordon, Joe Dumars, Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, Klay Thompson. Like, maybe Desmond Bane is somewhere in that spectrum of players because his stats match up really well with all those guys for his first 2 seasons. And every single one of those guys went up a level from year 2 to year 3. Almost all of those guys, I know it's a specially curated list of really good shooting guards, but almost all those guys were a little bit older when they were drafted, like Desmond Bane. I really like the Michael Redd, Michael Finley, Joe Dumars, Coutinho Mobley comparisons because those guys weren't super high draft picks. There aren't a lot of guys who made a leap in year 2 like Desmond Bane in a good situation who then got bad. So I think Desmond Bane has a chance, a 30% chance of being even better than last season. So if you got Ja and Desmond Bane, possibly one of the best backcourts in the NBA. And then I think that Ja and Bane with Dylan and Brandon and Jaren, that's one of the best 5-man lineups possible in the entire NBA. I mean, I think that's a truly elite 5-man lineup. I don't know if it's more elite than 5-man lineups that like the Bucks, the Warriors, the Suns, and the Celtics can make, but I have a lot of faith in it. Now, when we're just talking about wins, or I guess even if we're considering like a season-long power ranking, the teams ahead of the Grizzlies, I think, mainly have fewer questions. I already said, no questions for the Warriors. The Suns, it's more like, is their locker room upset? Will they be able to get over the DeAndre Ayton contract issue? The Clippers and the Nuggets, it's more of the injury concerns. Not that many questions about like the Sixers. We're pretty sure they're going to be quite good. We nitpick at them about their postseason success with Doc Rivers and James Harden. But the big question marks for the Grizzlies, all right, Jaren Jackson Jr., he's out maybe 10 to 30 or 40 games. The Grizzlies lineups right now, in my brain, it's when Jaren's out, they're weird. They don't make a lot of sense. Part of that's without Kyle Anderson being there. Kyle Anderson used to be this utility tool for the Grizzlies who could step in whenever Jaren was out, and it just kind of made all the lineups work. Now, I don't have a lot of faith personally in the rookies to be able to step in and do that. I have difficulty imagining Dylan Brooks or Zaire Williams playing a lot of minutes at the 4. I do like Brandon Clark alongside Steven Adams. The obvious issue everyone correctly highlights is, you're going to have a lot of non-spacing lineups. If you got Ja on the court, I mean, maybe Ja will pick up that three-point shooting a little bit more. But Ja plus a front court of Brandon and Steven, teams can really pack that in, you'd think. So if it's not Brandon, what are your other options? Now we're talking rookies. We're talking Xavier Tillman at the 4. Twin Towers, Sante Aldama. Is Killian Tilly going to do it? Is he going to be on the team? I'm not sure. So that's a really big question mark. You also lose the three-point shooting volume and defense of D'Anthony Melton on the perimeter. They have not replaced that three-point shooting volume. We hope Jake LaRavia will make threes, but we do not know yet if Jake LaRavia can make threes in the NBA. You also lose those turnovers you were forcing between Melton and Kyle Anderson. Those guys picked up a lot of steals. They were a big reason the Grizzlies have led the NBA in steals the last 2 seasons. So there are maybe more questions for the Grizzlies than some of these other teams, which is why, again, I think this ranking is fair. I think that's where the Grizzlies find themselves right now. Now, if we get out there and Desmond Bane has proven that he's in fact now Michael Redd 2.0, okay, we can bump them up in the rankings. We find out Zaire Williams has made significant leaps from year 1 to year 2. All right, bump him up in the rankings. If we're finding like Steven Adams is getting 6 assists a game because Roddy and LaRavia just know how to cut, know how to shoot, the offense is flowing even better, there's even better spacing, all right, we bump them up a notch. But repeating myself, and it's the summer, so forgive me, the Grizzlies' improvements are going to be all probably on the shoulders of Ja Morant. And so where can he go from year 3 to year 4? Let's get to that right after this short break. Go to grindcitymedia.com today for the most up-to-date and exclusive coverage and analysis of the Memphis Grizzlies. Grind City Media is always there, home and road, providing the most comprehensive coverage, plus your local and regional sports fix, all in one spot. For more information and behind-the-scenes access on the Grizzlies, visit grindcitymedia.com or follow on Twitter at grindcitymedia. All right, let's look at some year 3 to year 4 player comps for Ja Morant, and then we'll get to the Grizzlies 2K ratings. These are a little bit subjective. I mainly focused on players I was familiar with, so I'm not going to do Tiny Archibald and Jerry West. I didn't see those guys play. Sorry. But Ja Morant, who has led his team to exceed expectations each of his first 3 seasons in the NBA, who jumped from 19.1 points per game from year 2 to 27.4 points per game in year 3, took the Grizzlies from 43 wins in his second year to 56 wins in his third year, made the second round of the playoffs where they fell to the eventual champions. What are some historical comps to Ja Morant, and how can we look at their careers, and what can that tell us? Now, again, this is not a scientific process. This is just me comparing stats, comparing players who I think are similar. I think my initial Ja Morant comparison was maybe shooting a little bit low, and it was to Kevin Johnson. So Kevin Johnson's a great NBA player. He just never became someone who'd finish top 5 in the MVP. But Kevin Johnson, year 2 to year 3 on the Suns went from 28 wins to 55 wins, which is an unbelievable year-to-year improvement. Kevin Johnson's third year, the Suns made the conference finals. The year 4 of Kevin Johnson, the team actually lost a game, but still 54 wins, nothing to be ashamed of, made it the conference finals again. He increased his scoring from 20 points per game to 22 points per game, still picked up 11 assists per game. So I just take that to say, okay, year 3 to year 4, kept getting a little bit better. Let's do another one that is not like top-tier Hall of Famer, and let's do John Wall. Now, Ja Morant is right now better than John Wall ever was. But I still think maybe we can take something from just comparing the careers, where year 2 to year 3, John Wall, the Wizards went from 25 wins to 29 wins, not that great. But year 4, They jumped up to 44 wins. That's the arrival of Bradley Beal. Has a lot to do with that. John Wall, year 2 to year 3, goes 16 points per game to 18.5 points per game. So a nice jump there. Year 4, he kicks it up to 19.3 points per game. So he keeps getting better. His assists go way up in year 4. A lot of that is probably he had guys to pass to. Bradley Beal and Trevor Ariza could make shots, and thus the Wizards got a little bit better. Another Wizards player, Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas, if you don't remember, a prodigious scorer. Now, Gilbert Arenas changed teams after his second season and went from the Warriors to the Wizards. We now have the Arenas rule to rectify the wrong that made it where the Warriors could not retain or could not match the offer that the Wizards offered him. But in year 3 to year 4, both years on the Wizards, that Wizards team goes from 25 wins to 45 wins, and Gilbert Arenas jumps up from 20 points per game to almost 26 points per game. So that was a big jump from year 3 to year 4 for Gilbert Arenas. Does Ja Morant make a big jump? Kind of hard. You're already at 27.4 points per game for Ja, so maybe the ceiling is a little bit lower. But here's some comps I like, which we're now getting to guys who I think are on the same level as what Ja Morant has achieved. And historically, these guys I'm doing now, because of the length of their careers, Ja Morant just in the beginning of his career, because of the length of their careers, these are much greater historical players than Ja Morant is. But this is the company we hope and we assume Ja Morant is going to stay in. Let's compare Ja Morant to Isaiah Thomas. One of my favorite player comparisons. Isaiah Thomas is one of the best point guards of all time. A similar team trajectory with the Pistons back in Isaiah Thomas's early years and the Grizzlies right now. The Grizzlies went from 43 wins in Ja's second season to 56 wins in his third season. The Detroit Pistons went from 40 wins in Isaiah Thomas's second season to 50 wins in his third year. Now, the individual stats for Isaiah Thomas from year 3 to year 4 kind of leveled off. Both seasons, little over 20 points per game. Isaiah Thomas's assists went way up from year 3 to year 4. The Detroit Pistons, their team success, actually they won fewer games. They went from 50 wins in year 3 to 47 in year 4. Will the Grizzlies win fewer than 56 games this coming season? Statistically, yes. It's way more probable that the Grizzlies win fewer than 56 games this year because it's hard to go much higher than 56. So odds are the Grizzlies will take a step back in the win department. Now, if we want to take a comparison to Isaiah Thomas, he's not one who took a massive leap. He just kept building and building. The Pistons, it took them several more years to break through. Before they were a good team, they were making the playoffs, but it was year 7 before Isaiah Thomas made the finals. Year 8, he wins the finals. We hope that's a similar path that the Grizzlies could be on. Another player to compare Ja Morant to is Allen Iverson. Now, both small, diminutive, athletic guards who could get to the rim and were extremely adept at scoring. It's funny that I don't consider Ja Morant to be a similar level of scorer as Allen Iverson. But last season, Ja Morant, his points per 100 possessions, which is something we can use to try to compare eras. Now, Allen Iverson played in a time where defenders were allowed to grab and hit a lot more. Offenses were way worse. Allen Iverson's teammates on the Sixers were notoriously bad at scoring. So this is not an apples-to-apples comparison. But even still, let's just talk about it. If we compare points per possession or points per 100 possessions, last season, Ja Morant averaged 39.6 points per 100 possessions. That is more points per 100 possessions than Allen Iverson had in every single season except one. Allen Iverson had one season above that mark where he was 39.7 points per 100 possessions. There have only been in NBA history 32 players, that includes Ja Morant, who have averaged over 39 points per 100 possessions in a season. I set a cutoff at 40 games played. Just wanted to get rid of the guys who played 6 minutes in a season who were messing up the results. The only players to have multiple seasons of scoring over 39 points per 100 possessions. Michael Jordan did it 10 times. LeBron's done it 5 times. Giannis Antetokounmpo and Shaq have done it 4 times. Luka Doncic has done it 3 times, so he's going to keep doing it. James Harden 3 times. Steph Curry 3 times. Kevin Durant 3 times. Kobe Bryant 3 times. And then Joel Embiid, Trae Young, Russell Westbrook, Dwayne Wade, Bradley Beal, Allen Iverson, Karl Malone, and Dominique Wilkins have done it twice. Those are the only players to score over 39 points per 100 possessions in multiple seasons in their career. That's something Ja Morant did last year. So he is a statistically comparable scorer to Allen Iverson. Now, the team success of Allen Iverson from year 2 to year 3 of Allen Iverson's career, the Sixers went from 31 wins to they became a winning team in year 3. I have them at 46 wins prorated over an 82-game schedule. That season, they only played 50 games. It was a strike-shortened season, so they were 28-22 over 82 games. That prorates out to 46 wins. So year 2 to year 3, 31 wins to 46 wins prorated. Year 4, they go all the way to 49 wins, make it to the second round. Allen Iverson's points per game go from 26.8 in year 3 to 28.4 in year 4. Could we see a similar slight increase? I mean, I'm calling 1.5 points a slight increase. It's a pretty good increase when you're scoring that many already. Could we see Ja Morant go from 27.4 to like 29 points per game? I think yes, we certainly could. It was year 5 for Allen Iverson where he bumped it up to 31 points per game. The Sixers won 56 games. They made it to the finals. I think we can take something away from that. I think, I would be surprised if Ja Morant didn't bump it up by like 1 point per game at least. We also have to mention Derrick Rose. Now, Derrick Rose is a very negative outcome because of the injury. Derrick Rose's knee injury occurred in his year 4. Right now, the trajectory is similar. Where year 2, Derrick Rose, Bulls won 41. Year 3, they jump up to 62 wins. They make the conference finals. That's Derrick Rose's MVP season. A lot of parallels between that season and the Grizzlies last year and Ja Morant last year. Derrick Rose went from 21 points per game year 2 to 25 points per game, 8 assists per game, 4 rebounds in year 3. So that year 4, we don't want to talk about it. We'll just move on. But the Derrick Rose year 2 to year 3, very similar to Ja's. So I think it's worth mentioning. Also, Russell Westbrook. Similarly, Ja Morant's game relies a lot on athleticism. Now, Russell Westbrook was not the best player on these teams. So I don't know how we do the comparison as much for team success. Like year 2 to year 3, the Thunder go from 50 wins to 55 wins. In year 3, they make the conference finals. Westbrook in those seasons goes from 16 points per game, 8 assists. In year 2 to year 3, increases that to 22 points per game, 8 assists. Year 4, they go to 56 wins. That's prorated. That year, they only played 66 regular season games. But just to compare them all over an 82-game number, the Thunder then in year 4, they make it to the finals. And Westbrook's points per game goes up from 22 to 24. His assists actually go down, though. So maybe Could we see more scoring, more passing? I actually think it's going to be a little bit of both. I think like in Isaiah Thomas, you're going to see Ja's assists go up, and also we're going to see scoring go up, similar to what Allen Iverson did, what John Wall did, what Gilbert Arenas did in year 4. Now, that was mainly for entertainment. Again, I think Ja Morant's already proven himself. Top-line player. But I do think if we look at other Hall of Fame point guards, which I think Ja Morant, that's the path he's on right now, that we can say the Grizzlies are probably not going to take a huge step back as far as wins, as far as how good they are. While Ja Morant is this elite. It's not like the cast of characters, it's not like the supporting cast is scrubs. They're not. We can correctly say, I don't think this supporting cast is as talented as it was last year. But if we ignore that, it's still a formidable group of players that fit very well around Ja Morant. He's not going to have to be a one-man band. He has support on this team, and thus, I would assume the Grizzlies hit 50 wins once again this coming season. So, if that matters to you when you're looking at that Vegas over-under line, by all means. Although, again, this is not my official guess. I haven't done all my research. Or, that's not true. I haven't applied all my research to drawing a conclusion yet. But anyways, let's wrap up with, real quickly, the Grizzlies 2K ratings, because some people care about this stuff. Ja Morant clocks in with a 93 overall rating. That 93 overall rating has him tied with Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler as the 9th best player in the game based on those ratings. The only players higher: Giannis, KD, Steph Curry, LeBron, Jokic, Embiid, Doncic, and Kawhi Leonard. Again, you can't be mad at that. Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane are 83s. Steven Adams, an 82. Dylan Brooks is an 80. And then the Grizzlies bench. I don't know much about 2K, I'll be honest. These ratings feel kind of funny and or maybe borderline disrespectful. But Tyus Jones is a 77. Brandon Clark is a 76. Tillman and Conchar, both 75s ahead of Zaire. Zaire Williams is a 74. Danny Green at a 73 is just rude. Does that take into account the fact that he has a torn up knee? Maybe. And then the rookies, Roddy is a 72. Laravia is a 71. Second-year guy, Aldama is a 70. And, Kenneth Lofton Jr., a 69. That is not nice. I don't like that at all. But anyways, hope you guys are having a great Monday. Again, if you're in the Nashville area, come out to that Sounds game on Saturday to see the Grizzlies Caravan. Make sure you give me a rating. If you listen to this in iTunes, make sure you give me this podcast a positive rating. Give me a 5-star review in iTunes or in Spotify for listening on Overcast. Go ahead and star this episode. I would really appreciate it. But hope you have a great Monday. Talk to you soon. Go Grizz.